topics that are important when thinking about how crime is situated, especially in Jamaica, how human life is treated as a statistics without proper assessment of the effect of crime on victim, family members, as well as offenders and their family members, being touching on the realm of the right to privacy, as well as the right to privacy of the family life. That one being the very tricky area, because mothers are forced to denounce sons, mothers are forced to lie, parents are forced to turn a blind eye to sexual deviance, and all this while the government, who is responsible for protecting citizens, the maxim of the mandate of the Jamaica Constabulary Force is to protect and to serve. What? Why am I speaking about that? Because the sexual offenders registry is private in Jamaica, so that you cannot know when somebody has been convicted of a criminal offense involving sexual violence, and they show up right beside you in apartments, townhouses, gated communities. If you're from uptown, they show up in the ghetto and you don't know what's going on down there. But equally, right where you are, they're in the homes, they are your neighbors, they are your professionals, they are your brothers, they are your sisters, they are your cousins, they are your parents, they are your classmates, they are your co-workers. They are citizens of this country that have found it impossible to manage their sexual demon and have meted out violence against victims, and how we perceive the victim and the sufferation and the pain that they go through to access justice in an imperfect justice system currently in the Jamaican space. Um, and because Jamaica is small community, it makes it difficult to navigate or even to fight crime. Put a lot of thought into how I would have the conversation. I need to sip my pure water clearly. Yeah. When one walks into the the courts, they hear stories, and the culture is when there are victims, especially the victims who are minors, to protect their privacy, not much that of the accused. The courtroom is cleared, and when the courtroom is cleared, what then happens is a private conversation about some sexual deviant, and the public sometimes are not aware of the realities, or are not aware of what goes on in terms of whether it's a plea agreement or outcomes. And then if it's a plea agreement, a jury doesn't hear about it. So tell your friend here, tell your neighbor doesn't apply. And persons go into deals of a lifetime where they miss prison for harming a minor, and they go to prison. There was a time when the only vagina that was valuable in Jamaica was the single woman's vagina. So underage girls and underage children and married women were somehow inferior when it comes to protection in the law. That we can have a conversation of another time, but um, I just want to lay the foundation. So Jamaica is a high crime society. Most countries that have had similar high levels of violence have experienced it as as political violence, open civil wars, and post-war instability. Few developing countries experience violence with such intensity. A daily occurrences, and very few countries have had such high rates for such a long duration. That is Professor Anthony Harriot um, in his Bending the Trend Line and speaking about the challenge of controlling violence in Jamaica and the high violence societies of the Caribbean. Um, well, just when you think of it, you ask yourself, what is a high crime society? And it tells you pretty much, you know, well, what persons who find themselves in the reality, you find yourself in a country where the murder rate is high. There's no doubt in our mind that the murder rate is high, and extrajudicial killings has been the number one tool this time around by the current government to bring down the murder rate. And for that reason, the murder rate is low. But even as the murder rate is low, here's what we experience. A 9-year-old found in a barrel, a UTech student currently missing after promises made by the Minister of Transport and Technology when the in-drive system had caused the death of a young lady, and as well as a missing in-driver. There was promises and press releases and serious actions would be taken against the companies such as InDrive and any app that you could call to get a ride. And the Minister of Technology, Darrell Vaz, had made serious statements and called for accountability from the apps, and even went out to, said it would happen immediately. Of course, that died down, and then came the UTech student who found herself missing. Now, what about Shanique Shakes? She's a 9-year-old, raped and murdered, and no suspect was ever charged. Shanna K. Legister, a 9-year-old, raped and murdered, no suspect was ever charged. Ananda Dean, and you would have heard of the Ananda alert. She was an 11-year-old who was raped and murdered, and no suspect was ever charged. Kelsey Farragon was a 9-year-old, raped, murdered, suspect, and the suspect was still not located. And then the recent one, and I take issue saying the names, but the young lady might have been Kelsey Farragon, but she would have lost her life, found in a barrel. If I'm saying that right, somebody can correct me. And the suspect, a young man with a very colorful sexual history, and an explanation from the DPP as to how he was given bail, and whilst on bail was allowed to commit this offense. So somebody says, yeah, Kelsey Farragon, found in a barrel. And if you start to feel discomfort at the amount of 9-year-olds and 11-year-olds, the age of criminal responsibility is 12. And so you must know the fragility of and innocence of a child below the age of 12. And I can go as far as saying a child under the law is right under the age of 18. But when one thinks of how adolescent would be the teenage years, but this is young, fragile, innocent, small, underdeveloped. And there are cases now where they have the beautiful language of having sex with a person under the age of 16. So there are there are persons, as I'm talking now, who are before the court, who are having sex with minors, who the minors saying them in love, who the minors say who the justice system are at pains because it wasn't rape. It was a sick, twisted version of um, pedophilia as a sect of mentally ill people who are crying out to say that they have love and relationships with young people, and the young person say, yeah, um I am in love, and I we did it, and it wasn't rape. I gave my consent. Except in law, I'll be here to tell you that children are not allowed to give their consent. One of the problematic areas that leaves discomfort for anyone is the reality that the age of consent arrives at 16 in Jamaica. So there was a song one time, she is just 16 years old, leave her alone, they say. Well, there and there, you would appreciate immediately that that conversation about 16 in Jamaica, so long as the person is so long as the child is 16, that's the end of that. You can't get up and take issue with the sexual activities between the adult and the 16-year-old. So some will frown upon that, and the important thing is to look for the consent. Sexual interaction must include consent. In the absence of consent, it is rape. There are flaws within the justice system because the true conversation to have is sexual autonomy. Sexual autonomy simply deals with the whole idea of being able to say no. Once there is consent, and the consent is not vitiated, then what happens in the privacy of somebody's home should not be paraded before the court. Is when somebody cry rape that issues arise whether or not consent was given and consent is vitiated. However, in my mind, a far way to go in the Jamaican space is to recognize that any sexual violation is rape. Currently in Jamaica, we call anything other than penetration with the penis and the vagina to be grievous sexual assault. And then you have the section, I think it's 78, which is the buggery and bestiality and all other sexual deviance subsumed. But when there is no consent, of course, as a lawmaker, when I get there, it has to come to the forefront that anything that lacks consent is rape. Any sexual violation is rape, and we have to get there because you cannot empower victims by categorizing them as saying one form of sex is acceptable, because that is one of the reasons why, certainly when I traverse the court, there are young males who are sexually abused, assaulted, and naturally they have not been empowered with the same type of intensity because of the shame that comes with it and because of the classification Those things are what we need to understand. And yes, what is good about our constitution is that it is prospective. It makes it clear exactly um, sex is, as it is, and we're talking about normal sex as between a man and a woman. Persons will be upset because they think that the definition should include all forms of sex. The only issue I take with the definition of sexual intercourse is that it speaks of the penetration of the male penis into the vagina of the female, seemingly to suggest that the only time sex takes place is when the male penetrates the female vagina, as if a woman cannot back it up on the dumper truck, as well as the Beyonce style Cowboy Carter. All of these things, as if to say women cannot rape men, because they can't in Jamaica, as well as how how we define where the power dynamics lie, because that is what people miss in terms of sex and the power dynamics. If people are failing to understand what I'm talking about, there's a famous trial going on right now in America where P. Diddy, the bad boy mogul, is brought before the court for sexual trafficking, and the testimony is beyond sexual demon deviance, bedroom mannerisms that would certainly cause persons to question whether or not you could go back to your Apple Music and play a Diddy record. But also the victim, who has become a superstar from her relationship, which the defense is contending is a consensual one, and messages speaking about love and swingers club and orgies and what have you. It begs the question as to who is a victim, when there is victimization, what are we supposed to be looking at, the power dynamics, the sexual deviance. And I could go on and on. The story has never been told. But taking it back, there must be a space to address the true reality that when you look at how we define rape, how we look at stuff, for instance, the sexual intimacy represents some of the most emotional, wonderful, and pleasurable aspects of our life. So for many citizens in Jamaica and the Caribbean, it is the worst and lowest points in their lives. Now, in the United Nations and the Caribbean Human Development Report, it suggests that 1 in 3 women will be raped, beaten, forced into sex, or otherwise assaulted in her lifetime. And the report goes on to explain that in countries such as Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago, the risk of sexual victimization increases in specific geographical areas and among specific subpopulations. So moreover, region-wide, much of this violence is against women, disproportionately borne by youth, and significantly impacts the girl child, not excluding the boy child. Amnesty International, they had found that 70% of all reported sexual assaults in Jamaica were committed against girls rather than women. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the region with that is the region with the highest proportion of adolescent females who claim to have had their sexual debut before the age of 15. And the Caribbean region has the earliest onset of sexual initiation in the world. Early sexual debut and sexual violence impact adolescent pregnancy and expose the girl child to HIV/AIDS through forced sexual intercourse with infected partners. increased sexual risk taking, such as multiple partners or engaging in transactional sex, and a lack of control or negotiation skills to use condoms and seek preventative healthcare services. So it is the reason why the law has tried to intervene and regulate the nature and context of sexual relationships. Um, so when one looks at what the data is saying, when one tries to rationalize, if that is the best way to think about it, one has to also come to the understanding that the what I would say is, being in a country where, as I said, Jamaica is a high crime society, so it is the people um, who must find ways to navigate the high crime space, find ways to ensure that, for instance, a woman who lives in the house with a womanizer, a man who is with her but is also prepared to have sex with all her daughters, she's in a situation where she can't report. And yes, the Child Care and Protection Act says she has a duty to report and she'll be suffering from child neglect. But we just saw the case where the young man, I don't even know his name, he was paraded, but he went from sexual offender to gunman and was murdered by the police. So apart from what is in the space, that the DPP had come out to say that he had a case where he had sex with the 1-year-old and broke up the bones, and the child was in the hospital, and the mother was charged, and the mother took a plea, and the mother never came and did what she was supposed to do. And it seems that the blame was shifted on the mother rather than the state to fail to protect citizens. And here's what I mean. As a defense lawyer, the presumption of innocence is paramount. I'm explaining this so people can understand. It is difficult to paint with a broad brush when allegations are brought up, because unfortunately, there are persons who are falsely accused and brought before the court. For instance, you have a little sex with a girl and she said, "You have to give me an iPhone," and you don't buy the iPhone. And she said, "Whoa, I'm going to ball rape, come and never get the iPhone." And the iPhone 16 we did one. And this idiot boy bring an iPhone 2, come give me. Where am I go with that? And she go down at the station and she said this, and then there before the court. And it kind of muddies the water, because there are women who are genuinely sexually abused, and in all instances where children are involved, the excuses are to be none. The only problem or issue I take with the legislation is when the having sex with a person under the age of 16 is bringing persons of similar age, as in the male child who is under the age of 16, before the court. But the law has since marched forward, and child diversion has been put to the forefront. And I even, many times you go into the court and the court is cleared, but you get to stay as a lawyer, or you are the lawyer participating, and lots of sexual deviance take place. The young people are exploring with sex, and it comes with violence. You would have seen the video with some boys battering a girl. I think it's in Portmore, and the guy was being jeered and he started to hit her, and yeah, just a little bit too much Pornhub perhaps, which would have caused young people before the court. It's a lot to be said, because treating with the sensitive nature has caused Jamaica to pretty much put the sexual offenders register on the lock and key. And I want people to appreciate that I am of the view that criminal convictions should not be private. I am of the view that persons with criminal convictions should wear their shame. I am of the view that while it is that the law affords plea agreements and mediation. There must be proper documentation when crime and criminal conduct is there for persons who run afoul of the law to take part in the necessary rehabilitation to have corrective measures. Similarly, I am of the view that notwithstanding the right to privacy, if you find yourself before the court and it was a mistake, you should be able to, just like how people always them dep on social media. Them get up and say, I'm brushing my teeth. I use Colgate. Guys, I'm now driving in my car. Guys, I now reach work. Guys, I have a big job. Guys, I'm getting married. Oh, so my client, no. All right. Guys, I'm having the grand time of my life. I'm flying first class, but you don't see when them buy the little cheap ticket and them in at the back of the plane. No, subject. You don't see when police pull them over and them get the ticket. You don't see when them call them and say, open your phone and scamming paraphernalia in there and them before the court. You don't see when them going to court for all these years, and you don't see when them have the conviction, and you don't see when them trying to start back them life, because everything is a shame, and it's understandable. It's very, very, very understandable, and here's what I mean by it's understandable. It is very embarrassing to have a conviction, because people will use it against you every single day of your life. You will never in life get the opportunity to move forward with your life without people trying to disrespect you. For instance, I know a lawyer who had a conviction, two even, one juvenile, got the expungement, moved on with their life, went on to the Privy Council, did a great job, freed his clients, came to Jamaica, freed his clients. Every time he goes to court, he frees his clients, and for whatever reason, the description is convict lawyer, and you shouldn't be a lawyer. And I'm like, wow, the purpose of the criminal justice system is for people to correct their life, go through rehabilitation, make amends to the fact that they respect the verdicts in court cases and respect the law. Respect the law so much so that, I'm not firing any shots, but the Privy Council makes pronouncements, overturn a murder conviction. It goes back to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal finds it repulsive that the manner in which the case was tried would be allowed to continue, and simply says, guess what? We're not going to retry this case because serious constitutional violations take place. The Constitution, being the done of all dons, is paramount and must be respected. The highest court in the land have made pronouncements about the manner in which those who are to mete out justice went about doing so, and did so in breach of constitutional rights. And then you wake up on the same another country whose minister clearly is not a lawyer gets up and say, oh, we have to regulate your car. Oh, the Privy Council never say you're not guilty, You get off on a technicality. We don't want you around here. Highest set of disrespect. Now, when it comes to human dignity, and when it comes to capacity, and when it comes to knowing who you are, money isn't always anything. Never let anybody anywhere in any country feel like they're more than you. And never let anybody want to destroy who you are, especially when you've gone through your trauma. Nobody should ever try to minimize what it is. Nor should anybody pretend that they would reduce you to that which you are not, especially when you've overcome mountains and trials. Respect thyself, and anybody who don't want to respect the court and respect the law and want to blame you for the the failures of government in society, when there are persons who put themselves up and make promises and don't keep them. For instance, where is the regulation of in-drive and these services where persons are turning up missing? In the absence of that, you have failed the country, minister. And any minister in any country that would use the lack of respect for the highest court of the land and use your past as an indicator is very problematic. But note, I raised the issue of Vibes Cartel and Trinidad, but for one reason. The same way that I don't agree with the minister that Vibes Cartel is not a proper candidate to go to schools and tell young people stay out of prison and focus on your talents, making money. It's kind of ironic because you would think that when somebody's making legal money, they're more fit than government officials, especially the ones who are in power stealing money. But I digress, because in one instance, you can be the scum of the earth and they can curse you about your convictions. And in the other instance, those who make the law are breaking the law and is not brought to justice. We must think on those things. And I use it because for the same reason, you are able, people in the spaces can attack the lawyer with the 2 convictions, or attack a prominent national treasure and dancehall artist turn gospel artist turn Rastafarian with in whatever kind, whatever form. For the same way they can speak about the history that's in the public space. That is how somebody said, just asking for, I need the name of that lawyer where you use him stumbling blocks as stepping stone. Oh, his name is Isat Akwaba Buchanan. Okay? It's not Isaac with a C. Isat. His father says Isat. But yeah, anyway. So what is important is this. The same way it is in the public space. And the dancehall artist, I don't have to call him name. I know I'm not talking about Sean Storm. Anyway, the dancehall artist, anything, no matter how progressive he is, they want to bring up, and he doesn't have a conviction. Let that sink in for the record. He can't be put in any registry, and he's not in any, he doesn't have a conviction. So there's no basis in law for any conduct or anything. But I digress. Everybody must know how to run them show and run them house. The irony is St. Vincent, which is doing very well for the people, violence is low. Guyana, which is doing very well for the people, has turned around because they found oil. But I have to admit there is a little issue because they are suffering from the same ailment, sickness that is taking place right now in Jamaica with sexual offenses, because they have not been able to provide an explanation of how a 9-year-old is found in a pool, murdered, sexually assaulted, and then eventually thrown in the pool, clearly never drowned. But these things are of importance. And just as how we speak about the having the convictions in the public for people to make pronouncements, and even the worst of the worst, what do you call it? Judging and making comments when they're rightly supposed to. And you know the funny thing about it? They sit in spaces with persons who are on the sexual offences registry. And a lot of big names are on the sexual offences registry. A lot of prominent people and their families and friends are on the sexual offences registry. Prominent people have family members on the sexual offences registry. And perhaps that is why the minister won't release it. Because I can tell you, the law speaks of demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society. if ever there was a time that pronouncement can be made and legislation made clear to make it just like in America, you have to register, and the people in the communities must know that you're a pedophile or a sexual deviant or a rapist and that you're in the community. That is the aspect of it. And it's simple. There are circumstances when the sexual offense that takes place is not as gruesome and violent, and issues of consent is up in the air. Boyfriend and girlfriend situation where a little missionary was going on, but then the boyfriend decides to turn around and give me the back shot, and the back shot was not a part of the deal, or the lizard lap. And then radam, you run go police station because you can't manage, and then a little plea deal come and a judge give a little certificate, and then the time did short and people move on with them life. Maybe, just maybe, the ability to explain the circumstances of your conviction may cause you to be able to put your life forward. I won't continue to speak about the lawyer, the young man who was a lawyer who was granted a practicing certificate from the Jamaica Legal Council, because there are two different types of offenses, and I'm making the case as to why the sexual offences registry should simply be made public. And then a lot of people, then just like how they say, if you don't like rules, don't go to the school. If you don't like, say, the sexual offences registry public, don't commit no sexual offense crime. If you don't want people to know, say, you're a sexual demon and a sexual deviant, don't go trouble people picnic and end up in a court and end up on the list. And it's always some little demon brought before the court, and all of a sudden them innocent. Them never innocent when them tell you shut up and take this gal, or whatever those songs are saying. So for as far as I'm concerned, whatever circumstances you find yourself on the sexual registry list, you should be able to explain for the rest of your life how you end up on that list. And people who are quick to judge should do so with a educated or informed decision as to how you're going to go about victimizing somebody who finds themselves on the sexual offences registry. And I speak this without any apology, because when one has to balance the reality that a young man, and I'm still calling him that, his mother has denounced him in all manner and all ways known to man, and he finds himself on bail after being accused of having sex with a 1-year-old, was living with a woman. The woman never come and testify, and the case, they end up get bail. No, the judge is not to be faulted, because you must put up or shut up. That's how criminal law works. Delay, they say delay defeats equity, but the due process speaks about a fair trial within a reasonable time before an independent and impartial jury. This is just the reality. And when people fail to deal with that aspect of it and appreciate that what justice looks like is that the justice must happen with some speed, because a man should not be sitting a day in prison. It's like 1,000 years, and a man can't just sit in prison endlessly and police not investigating, prosecutor not prosecuting, evidence not being collected, collated, sorted, and identified to bring the person before the courts. Or jury can sit and listen to the evidence and make a determination. So what happens is jungle justice or extrajudicial justice is not the answer, And I think that the explanation proffered as to why the man was on the bail and throwing it on the judiciary. When judges are placed in a position to have to give bail, just always remember that bail is a constitutional right. When persons are not on bail, the reasons must be the reasons literally must be demonstrably justifiable. There has to be a good reason why somebody cannot be put on bail, and it must be demonstrated by the police and the prosecution that this person is not a fit and proper candidate. You don't fault the attorney for making the application on the law. You don't fault the judge for abiding by the law. The judge can't just say, me I follow my spirit and don't do it, because again, the 1-year-old had a mother. The mother was charged. The mother was to do certain things and didn't do it. Whether it was out of fear, whatever it is, you do. One of the things the Child Care and Protection Act says is, you have a duty, to protect children. One of the things to protect is, you can imagine if a mother don't want to protect her picnic because want to lose her man, what the state supposed to do apart from remove the child out of the environment? But more so, allegations remain allegations until a conviction is put out. And no matter how you feel about people, that is exactly why the Prime Minister is allowed to run in this election, because they bring up whole heap of allegations about being a part of illicit aid and all of the money. And we see him big house and him never have no money, and all of a sudden him have it. We know his son where they were directors of a company when they were 9 and 7 or whatever. We know say him did come from Spanish Town and it was a board house and him never have nothing, and Juliet never have nothing, and him never hold a job in him life that could cause him to be rich as he is now. We know all of that. But he has not been brought before the court. And yes, because he's the Prime Minister, he could go to judicial review and even say, strike out the law that is going to put me in prison. And then there's a delay, and now there's going to election is going to call, and him still can run, and nobody in Jamaica cares that this man even show up at Bolt father funeral. But we're not talk about that, because Bolt must deal with that. But anyway, and people in Jamaica, because they are labor rights, say, allow him. We don't really business about that, because him do have a conviction. And PNP a make man with conviction run. So allow the Prime Minister, because him are the Prime Minister, so him not for answer to no. Him not for have no certified statutory declarations, and him not depend on no registry for thieving and criminality. So allow him, right? So that is a reality that we have to face, that sometimes how we're dealing with the sexual registries, who falls on the registry, when there are sexual deviant acts, when people are behaving a certain way, is it that the conviction is the ultimate marker of sexual deviance? If somebody commits murder and is not charged and brought to justice for it, does that mean they're not a murderer? If somebody rapes 300 women and is never brought before the court because the 300 women are either murdered, they migrate, they're embarrassed, they're on sex tapes and being forced to partake in group sex, and sex workers have sex with them, and then the man broke on the money, so there cannot be a non-disclosure agreement in the sum of $20 million, because money cure all kind of victimization, for some people. But what I can tell you is this: if we look at crime in a way so that only the convictions is a determinant of conduct, and especially in the presence of evidence, prima facie evidence, then in relation to the sexual offences registry, in relation to protecting minors, there we're going to run afoul and criminals are going to be allowed to morph and elevate into serious crime. The result being what took place with the 9-year-old. The problem left is, was it the person who actually did it? Um, is it safe to say that justice is served? What if there is a sexual deviant out there that was aware of the young man and used him as the smoke screen, the distraction, and then next week when another person dies, we wonder and start to think about it, and some other excuse is made up. So we can't run afoul of the justice system, and we cannot just leave things unanswered, and it makes it just a dangerous space when it comes to protecting especially children, women and children, the people who are victimized the most in when it comes to sexual violence. Now, the term mala prohibita, let's speak about that. Mala prohibita is a Latin term that translates to wrong because it is prohibited. So it refers to actions that are considered unlawful only by virtue of law or statute, rather than being inherently wrong. Examples of mala prohibita includes violations of law such as failing to pay taxes or driving on the wrong side of the road. Unlike mala inse, which is which are crimes considered wrong by their very nature. Mala prohibita offences are regulated by the law to maintain societal order and prevent harm. Now, when one thinks of mala non se, let's kind of just look at that briefly. See if I can find it. No, mala in se means wrong in itself or evil in itself. So the legal system mala in se refers to acts that are inherently wrong or an act that is wrong in and of itself. This is, as we said, in contrast to mala prohibita. So mala in se are crimes such as murder, rape, or theft. So when you learn how mala in se differs from mala prohibitum or prohibita and how it affects the law and punishment, I would have to have a whole show for that. I don't know if persons are following me. Somebody said, blessings, brother. Do you believe they should press for Delroy Chuck to step down? It's obvious that he doesn't care for victims that got raped and killed. You can't punish the rapist twice. That's I guess that's a statement from him. So I don't make pronouncements on the sons of Jamaica that are treated based on the fact that they're not black, so they can run free and do whatever they want. I am sure Stacey Knight will deal with that in an election. Nobody has to call for anybody to step down and resign. The election can be called, and anybody that ought to step down and resign, if the people agrees, they simply vote them out. What I can say is that there is a push to protect the sexual offender registry because they fear that jungle justice will be meted out against those persons, and they need to protect them. Here's the reality about it, though. 2025 will wake up, and if you cough too hard, the police come and extrajudicial kill you. And bad man, gunman, them can't be bad man and gunman anymore because the police has the mandate to take them out. Even the young man that allegedly raped, sexually assaulted, and murdered the 9-year-old, was murdered by the police, and in a shootout or a confrontation. So murdered meaning unalived. So let me use the word unalived. So the sexual offenders registry is out. I think that the way the JCF operates, the Delroy Chuck shouldn't worry about what would happen to persons on the sexual offences registry, because the police will simply unalive anybody that attempts to hurt them. And so I don't think that we're in a Jamaica where anybody should be worried about what would happen to people who run afoul of the law, because if you try murder somebody, you are dead. That's what's happening now in Jamaica. Sometimes I feel sorry for the judges, because at the end of this year, you won't need judges, you won't need criminal trials, and you won't need judges, because all the accused men will be dead. But what I will say is, I am putting to people on context matters that I think that everybody who commits a crime should post it on their social media. They don't have to release it. But they don't need anybody to reveal the sexual registry. They should disclose it. And in circumstances where convictions are expunged and you don't have to disclose it, then you don't. So the law just needs to be put in a place where persons can either, especially juveniles on the sexual offenders registry, they can be removed. Certain instances it can happen. But I think that the government needs to change the law so every young people, 18 years of age for girls and boys, not 16 years of or 14. This is too young. Law should and must change. Yeah, Paulette, we hear all of that, except that there are cultural implications. There are many other implications, because the same way Jamaica can say at 12 you can go to prison for committing crime, is the same way that you can argue that if that's the case, then once you reach 12, you should be able to make the decision as whether you can have sex, because they bring you before the court and charge you for murder. And Delroy Chuck did just pass law to say that if you're 12 and you commit murder, you stay in a prison till you're old, till you're at least 42. So one wonders why in one breath he's like, I'm not releasing the sexual offense registry, especially when adults have sex with young people and take away their innocence. And in the other breath, when young people are being children and run afoul of the law, you treat them with the strongest arm of the law as a matter of generational extinction. You get them from them young and lock them up and throw away the key. Is not a position that I'm ever going to take. There has to be consistency in the law, and I think that is something that has to be looked at. Mature consideration has to be given, and some serious constitutional implications of what we are to do with people's human rights when making law and when thinking how we're going to conduct society that would cause people to become criminals. There's a constant push to criminalize people, you know. For instance, the police, Horace Chang and the commissioner of police, they just got up and said, oh hey, we're now telling the police you can't open the phones, take people phones and open them and charge them for the contents of the phone. If they do, they don't have to give their what them call that, their passwords. But police still taking phone, feel your scammer, carry it to the lab, find the identity information, and then drag it before the court, and then along come FID that the government don't want fund, and them ready for fine work for themselves because they want a paycheck, and them come and them want to seize assets after somebody breach your privacy rights. It's a very, 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 very slippery slope, and how we look at it, we cannot be selective. So we cannot say that Oh, it's 5 o'clock. It's a break time. So those of you watching on Reggae Global Radio, who I think there was some trouble connecting them, Yeah. So gonna have to, yeah, don't need to break because it's not streaming to them. Anyway, yeah, so we move on. Good. But for those of you who are listening on Reggae Global Radio, we are taking the break now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But speaking of which, what was it? Yeah. So while there is the break on Reggae Global Radio, let us just look at what we're faced with. Um, a lot of sexual violence that also results in kidnapping, results in rape, and the ultimate end of all is that persons turn up missing. Those who are missing and never found are presumed dead. There was a situation where a taximan had taken away the young lady with the sight problems. So I don't think she was blind, but she was legally blind. And her father, to this day, is hurt that he could not find his daughter. And how did government respond to that? And don't we have Jamaica Eye? What is going on? Where is the people who to see that a crime was committed? People just turn up missing, never found, and that Jasmine Dean was her name. And the government, this government, it was this very government here, Andrew Holness administration, and I was shocked to see that they were running around after saying crime was down, and we're fighting crime, and nothing can stop us now, and we are coming for the bad men, and the bad men are only the ghetto youth. Them is the only thing bad in this country, and we're gonna kill them all and kill them all and done. And do not resist. If you resist, you're gonna dead. If you crash a car, this, you're dead, and all of that. And I mean, the whole issue of body cams and these masks, and we don't even know if sometimes when people dies from the police because police not behave certain way. Chloe, so sorry for your loss. Jasmine, if Jasmine was your cousin, we still want her. She was a very bright girl. She had all the prospects in life. She could have been a senator like Floyd Morrison. So persons with disabilities, especially those who are educated and those who are brilliant, they have shattered glass ceilings, and when they become when their lives are cut short by the hands of people who are disabled, one wonders and how we value life is of utmost importance. We have to realize that each and every one of us, our lives matter, even if we're on the road and we walk up and down with 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 shirts with politician on it, and we're homeless, and sometimes them even put them poster boards, and we're walking human poster boards, and sometimes we have dreadlocks but we're on a rasta, and sometimes we don't know nothing to eat, and them treat us like we're nothing. Your life still have value. um there's many things that you see sometimes and you have to wonder because um society is governed by law, and the people who make the lawmakers, the legislators, the upper house and the lower house are politicians. And you have to wonder sometimes when somebody is so adamant about not wanting to release the sexual offences registry, especially when other countries have released it. Other countries have released it, and they love to borrow things from other countries. Everything I find them want, but when it comes to the releasing of the sexual offences registry, them no want that. And from a perspective, remember, I am putting to people that I think that all convictions should be made public. All convictions should be dealt with. Somebody says, quick question, ask the question. If I see it, I will answer it, because it's right. It's a quick question. I'm not seeing the question. But yeah, and I think that I wouldn't say that not everything can be explained away, and not everything can not everybody's going to be satisfied with the explanations of the convictions. But convictions aren't the end of people's lives, you know. They're markers to indicate that you are to do so much better, to make amends. You are to have corrective measures in your life to ensure that you don't run afoul of the law. If it's like playing video games where you have 3 lives, or you only have 1 left, or if you're a cat you have 9 lives, you go around and you mess up 8, the 8 lives, the thing up there, like your phone convictions are like your phone battery. You see 1 cell left is an indicator that when that cell is out, it dead. You're dead in the show. So your conviction or convictions are indicators of the life that you are living, and people must have comparative data as to whether or not you're still living that life or you've made changes to your life. And I'm not talking about superficial changes. I'm talking about reintegration into society, becoming a productive member of society. And so don't leave it to me. I will not be making any excuses for anybody who is going to be a pedophile or a rapist or anything like that. So long as those things are proven and is put out, people have to deal with it. And also that when people wear their shame, you know, they're more likely to change their ways. And we as a society, we too oftentimes facilitate this reality that people mustn't be who they are, and people mustn't address the real issues that is taking place in their lives. Um, can Jamaica emotionally handle a sexual offensive registry with this made public? Even after prison, that person will get jungle justice after the community find out his past history. That's not true. There, in that very jungle that you speak about, there are people raping people as they like, and nobody can do nothing about it. There are persons who people know in houses and families that's a part of domestic violence, where persons are right now as we're talking to you. So when the show done, little more, somebody gonna get raped tonight. Little more, a child is gonna be sexually molested, and chances are the person who is doing it is probably on bail. Chances are the person who doing it is a close family member. It may be your pastor, it may be your teacher, it may be your coach, it may be the lawyer, it may be the doctor, it may be the Indian chief, it may be a politician, it may be somebody. There is no magical way to identify sexual deviance, because a lot of the time when people have sex, them take off them clothes. And when you take off your clothes, it includes taking off your profession, your education, your thing. It's the most animalistic form of human interaction that people will find. And so there should stop be when since people are worried about jungle justice, what is taking place since this year, where we have more than 110 persons unalived by police confrontation. Just help me to understand that how it is that we are promoting sexual deviance, how it is that we are protecting and saying that when people do their time. That's the point I'm making. But it's okay for the entire internet, as they like, to make reference to my convictions as if they think that offends me or bothers me. I'm proud of mine. And I'm saying, wear your shame and be proud of it. And people should not be upset for encouraging people to make amends and to speak up about their life and their experiences. And that's what the government did when they said, oh, we need to make a serious push to remove the convictions of our national heroes because it looked bad on them. But nobody thought it did look bad on the society when they put a noose around George William Gordon neck and Paul Bogle neck and Sam Short neck and hang them after convicting them. Explain that to me. And all the wrongful convictions that take place, and the society doesn't make amends and society don't want to compensate. We have to think about, I don't, anyone with my children. Oh, I don't even know what I mean. Yeah, and as soon as you stand up for human rights, them say, shut up, you're a convict. If they say this, they say, shut up, you're this, and they say this and that. But here it is, and chances are majority of them who is telling you shut up, them probably on the registry. You have lawmakers who have husbands who are on that registry. Mm-hmm. You had a man that the Jamaica Labour Party embraced that was convicted in one of those countries in the Middle East, and they came out with fighting that it was a wrongful conviction, it was a political conviction, it was this and that, and they made all the excuses because that person has to be on the sexual offences registry. And so people must understand that you wear your shame. And if you're on the sexual registry, tell you what, I want to know. So when I know, I can say, yep, see there? They know why you talk about rape because they're a rapist. It's a tape. I sat no rape. Yeah, I said it. How about that? So you can't, there's no excuse for it. And there must be counseling. There must be conversations about it. And as I said, persons must be able to have the conversations, and there must be people that must be able to advocate for them as well. There must be public education for people to, we're not normal, we're with sexual deviance behavior, demonic behavior must never be normalized. And Jamaica, we are a sophisticated society. There are persons who use those language loosely and assassinate people characters without zero evidence, but the evidence is there for people to protect their children and families, and people want to have it not public. If people don't want to make their mistakes public, don't make the mistake. There should be no room and no space, especially when it comes to children, because guess what? Can you imagine a teacher is convicted in Westmoreland for having sex with a minor, a baby is born, and they find themselves as a teacher in St. Elizabeth, then find themselves in a teacher in a Spanish town, and then make their rounds, and they go right around the country sexing off people, young girls, and that is okay? Yeah, and because the sexual offences registry is not open, you can't know, so them dep on it. Yeah, you can't have the conversations with people, like how people say, so how the conviction go? And even in the public space, people can't read. Let me tell you something. I don't care who want vex. If you don't want be on the sexual registry, don't have sex. Then call them nuns. Yeah. Just be a nun here and don't have no sex, and you won't be on the sexual offences registry. And then can't call your name. Because if you don't have sex, the court can't vex. Yeah? Yeah. Put it that way. And you won't need bail, and you won't need this. Just stay off. But if you're having sex, you must do it responsibly. It must be consent. And people must just like how people buy vote, then buy front. Everything is transactional sex. People get vexed because the transaction go bad and them run go call rape. And then not only that, remember, the dignity, the part of sexual autonomy is the ability to say no. So even if the woman selling at road of Back in the parish of Portmoreshire, yes, just understand that. Even if she's doing that, lady of the night, if you rape her, you forgo up on the registry. And nobody know for sorry for you and say, oh, but she's a prostitute. Even a prostitute, a lady of the night can say no. Yeah. And even young men, the woman them paying for it, them don't want to pay for it, and you say no, report them to the police station and tell the police to take the statement. Yes, it must be made public. So if women are out there and they're purchasing and they're forcing you, just tell me who they are and tell me their location. Okay? So if women are out there raping men and the men have a problem, or you can call my number and tell me where they are, what's their location, and where the allegations took place. And so I will investigate it for you. Tell me what clothes you were wearing and the name of the lady and where she is, and I will investigate for you and ensure it never happens again. Okay? Somebody say if women can do that. Anyway, so the point I'm making though is in a digital world where information is at our fingertips, one wonders if it's because everything is a 9-day wonder why persons aren't in a space or persons aren't able to circumvent the sexual offences registry, because I can tell you this, the reporting mechanisms, no, unfortunately in Jamaica a woman can't rape a man. How silly is that? But anyway, the importance though is to have the conversation about sexual autonomy. That is what's important. But the idea though is asking ourselves what are we protecting, because we don't have a problem with executions in this country. I am against it 100%. So the selective behavior by government to say that we don't want anything happening to persons on the sexual offences registry versus we don't have a problem if the JCF executes through by way of police confrontation. I'm choosing my words, because I can tell you this. If you're out there and you challenge the police with gunfire, you must not expect that you're going to come out on the good side. And if you hurt a police officer, it's capital murder. Hurt meaning unalive a police officer. It's capital murder. And the police are there to protect and serve, and you can't expect them to just walk into a confrontation and lose their lives. That is why I am advocating for body cams. I am not in no way criticizing the police for the work that they're doing, but saying that I take issue with the mask because I need to see who you are. I need to know that you are actually a police officer, and people don't bring them friend on the work, because these days anything can happen. It has happened in the past where people show up to work at the police station for 13 years and it's not even a police. And so if this wasn't a show from NCB or NBC or Fox, the impersonator or something like that, I don't know what it is. Somebody said exchange sex for laptops. That sounds like madness. Yeah, and that's my thing. Right. So the sexual offenders registry. We have been saying a lot, but let us see. So yeah, there is an article. The sexual offences registry is one where they balance the privacy rights. So um, so if anybody remember who Daniel Angling is, she was abducted and murdered. She was a primary school teacher and she was abducted and murdered in 2024. That's a last year, you know. So the outrage for the stuff that happening this year is a different thing. But the man had prior convictions for sexual offenses here in Jamaica and abroad, right? And what is important to note is that if you identify somebody as a public as a sex offender, it allows people to know, say, when you see them, you can run. It's not that when you see them, you're going to hurt them, you know, but women would know that, listen, you probably don't want past that house 12 in the morning with your KFC in your hand and you come from partying and you tight up skirt and feel good about yourself. Because you just may get kidnapped. Um, but remember, Horace Chang, he said after the incident with Daniel Anglin that the ministry legal team had been asked to review the legislation so that the government may make a decision on the way forward, with the overall important objective being to ensure that the public has information which allows them to take precautions and prevent exposure to convicted predators. But they never did. Well, the regulation dictates that access to information in the registry can only be given to those deemed to have legitimate interests, such as police, professional counselors of sex offenders, prospective employers and employees of a sex offender, facility managers and caregivers for vulnerable persons, people managing educational institutions, people acquiring information approved by the minister for statistical purposes, and a parent, guardian, caregiver, nearest relative, or person having an association with the sex offender. And then it wants you to go and make an application for access must be made in writing to the Commissioner of Corrections. Then the law also requires that the victim of sex offenders should be informed if their convicted offenders will be residing in their communities or relocated there at a later date. That's the victim. But what about other children? Shouldn't their parents be informed when that person is coming into community? Well, one has to think about one must think that if you care about the public and the public interest, stop dancing around legislation. So I can say this as an attorney, a human rights attorney at that. I like to make that distinction because that's where my passion lies. Um, I want people to appreciate how important it is that legislators must think about the interests of the children, and the children are the future. They teach them well and let them lead the way. Whitney knew what she was talking about, but then drugs got the best of her. Um, but I want people to know that certainly one of my biggest passions, and when I get to Parliament, the first thing on the agenda is to show how it is that the sexual offences registry can be made public, can be safe. The duty to report is enforced. That is, a sexual offender who decides that he's going to live in an area must be sent to the police station, and the neighbors and the people must be made aware of it. And it's simple. No sexual offender should be allowed to go into schools and teach, especially if the offender is one with having sex with persons under the age of 16. Recently, the Immaculate Conception High School had a teacher that had multiple accusations of sexual intercourse with students at the school. And they defended the school and pretty much didn't bother to worry about the children. And it's sad that they had to be in a position to defend the school, because the information was in the public before the principal or anybody could be aware of anything. And so vetting the teachers and having a sense of who it is that you are putting around the students, it is going to have to be because of the Sexual Offences Registry. And even there must be a mechanism for persons to be aware when those accusations are brought up against you as well. These things are important. And so in my mind, it can't just be talk. Because let me tell you, you have people in parliament, they're more important talking about we must bring abortion laws and women must be able to have abortion. And I had 3-4 abortions and I want the abortion bill to come so we legalize abortion. But you sit in parliament and you don't want them to make the sexual offense registry public. And you don't say, as a woman in parliament, the Jamaica Labour Party boasts of how many women are in parliament, and none of them get up collectively, nor the Ministry of Gender Affairs, Babsy, don't get up and say, it's time for me to tell my colleagues that this, to protect women and children, has to be made public. No, I'm not a lawyer, but the lawyers must know how to do it, because they can sit in parliament and push legislation through like a thief in the night and uphold it and fight for it when it suits them to do so. And so if they need guidance on how to do it, we must come to the table. And that's one of the first things that I would do. I, as a legislator, would pass the necessary legislation or bring it forward on how to make the Sexual Offences Registry public. You can't want to be a sexual deviant and come out. Them used to have a song say the freaks come out at night and roam the night and be a predator on people's kids and think that it is going to be acceptable. These are the things that we must worry about. You think road and water can stop people carry people picnic in a bush? You think that protects people? You think worrying about writing 100 billion traffic tickets so that you can circumvent the lie you tell about not bringing no new taxes can help to save children from being sexually exploited, assaulted, abused, and scarred for the rest of them life? And I can tell you this, hurt people. I have been in the court, and it is my duty not to say names, but to see in the court young men being charged for being sexual deviants, and girl child, boy child, all of that. It has to stop, because children live what they learn. And so if you don't protect children from their parents, from their siblings, from their uncles, from their aunts, from their cousins, and I'm going to say this again, even in the good old church, the church has a duty to protect children from sexual deviance. Same for in our schools. Reverse it. Reverse the curse. Yeah, let me say it that way. And so for me, if them don't want to do it now, Me I win my seat now. Me I go get there, and the People's National Party is gonna form the next government. And for that reason, I will say, as a lawyer, and having the legal competence to tackle the issue, I can stand before, just like how I publicly stand. You can't come go on like you want to style me over my convictions. I wear them. Even the expunged ones, I wear it. And I allow anybody to talk about it because that's not the man who I am. You can't come style me. And I'm saying persons, if the government as it is now don't want to make it, you have an opportunity, especially those who have gone to prison under circumstances where you might have been victimized and then end up on the sexual offences registry. If you don't tell your story, it's another man is telling his story, not your story. And I have done enough rape cases and sexual offences cases in my career to know that there's a lot of complexities that come with it, and it has to be a discussion that is had between pushing the narrative to conviction and ensuring that persons navigate the law and justice is done. Not victimizing persons, encouraging victims to speak up, be brave enough to understand. Especially, I'm saying this now in Child's Month, where we need to empower children. I went recently to Comfort Castle Primary where they had their formal day, and they were so aware of child rights, freedom of expression. They making sure that parents feed them, clothe them, protect them. Yes? And more than anything, they understood inappropriate touching, sexual grooming. All of these things are aspects that must be robust. And we must weed them out in every spaces. So even police must be prepared to lock up police when them gone there with underage girl. And must be prepared to deal with the issues as they arise. And if nobody don't want to participate and be a part of that embarrassment, don't find yourself in compromising situations. Consent is simple enough. When you go, if you're on the street and you're begging and say, please, can I get $10? It's the same thing. He said, can I have some vagina, please? And she said, yes. He says, okay, what time? And I said, 10 o'clock. And he said, what position? Missionary. I really like when you back it up on the dumper truck. Is it possible for a back shot to be a part of our sexual excursion? And she says, certainly, good fellow, you can go ahead. And then you do that. He said, is this comfortable enough for you? And then you say it. If she says yes, then he says, okay, shall I proceed? And he says yes. And he said, I'm really enjoying this at this particular time. Is it possible at all for me to try another position with you? As this is very intense and I have about 38 seconds left in me. Shall we go? Cheerio, cheerio. And she says yes. And he says, oh there. It is possible that you may have a child because I have forgotten the protection. And she says, go ahead because you have a career and I want to have a son for you. And then you go on like that. And all of that is consensual from start to finish. And there was no vitiation. Anything else is you might end up on the sexual offences registry. And so the conversation has to be real. It has to be real. And the thing about it is Jamaica is an over-sex society and people pretend that they don't have sex. People are offended by conversations about oral sex because they behave like they don't do oral sex, but are not going to go down the road to fellatio and cunnilingus because people have a problem with it. But then you go into the court and case after case after case after case is GSA. People putting their mouth on people's private parts and people putting their private parts into people's mouth. Grievous sexual assault. It is a part of almost every sexual case in the criminal justice system. And I want people to understand that if you don't have the conversations, and I don't need to tell you about the plethora of sexual videos in the social space of children partaking with the sexual deviance, and children live what they learn. So let us make it clear. There has to be open conversations, and there has to be proper corrective measures so that children who find themselves running afoul of the law get proper care through child diversion, and corrective measures are had. There must be spaces for people to talk about conquering sexual molestation, child molestation, power struggles. You're in the office and your boss going like them want come say you not get your pay unless you give up the sex. Yeah? Even that is inappropriate. And even there, you must not be put in places where you feel like you're going to lose your livelihood and your life if you speak up and say no. No is a very strong word, you know. It's a very strong word. You are not for sale. When the politician them come to when election are called and I try to buy your vote, tell them no and take them things. Still take them things. And this is a warning to young males and males. Listen, if you offer up your electronic devices and your money and your KFC to the women, it's not an invitation. It doesn't mean that it's going to go to sex. So that's something you must be able to understand. So I'm using my platform to speak about it. And look how context matters. Look at this. This flyer is so it is it can spark emotions because you have to pray for the children in Jamaica. But at the same time, they're going through so much because they live in volatile communities. And even those who don't live in volatile communities can still live in homes where sexual abuse is real. There are persons right now where the mother and the daughters are having sex with the provider, the caregiver, as a means of survival. So not understanding consent and not realizing that you can be victimized and you can be tricked and bamboozled into sexual indiscretions. You won't appreciate. And shout out to Lexi Chow. When you vote for Lexi Chow, she's a cinematographer, she's the coda boss, she's having I wish if you can put the thing in the thing, Lexi, I can tell the 920 people to go vote for you, so we can put out probably a short film on the sexual offenders registry and document it. Let's see what that would look like. But anyway, as opposed to so this is an airy feel when all you can do is pray and knowing that children are victimized at any time. But at the same time, you can also take this approach and talk about the sexual offences registrar, eyes wide shut and woke. And it's so much more palatable because you're taking it from a legal aspect and you dress up in a nice suit and people talk about it and then say, yes, we're going to open it and we're going to look at it. But you have to understand that people's privacy and what's going to happen to them. And we'll talk about it tomorrow. And then the 9-day one does pass. So I'm going to tell you that we must get up and do something. And the things that must matter to us must be protection of children. You have a duty, a statutory duty to protect children. Any form of abuse that comes out, and in this child month, I'm making people aware, any form of abuse must be reported to the relevant agencies. And there are competent people who can take your report, CFTSA, that's the child care, whatever, they are the competent agency. Sisoka is who you go to for rape. You don't just walk up in the police station and tell some random officer wearing blue, say, may just get a little rape. Somebody touched me inappropriate. They're not trained and equipped to take that. Sisoka is the competent branch of the JCF. And let me tell you something, them not play. If you sniff too hard, them have you in a question and answer to talk about inappropriate touching. And inappropriate sexual touching can just take place from just the demeanor of the person. But then again, in a society where aesthetics matter, sometimes when somebody now touch you sexually, they're just so ugly. And then they will all shake your hand and you feel like them sexually molested. So you have to identify and be realistic when it is that you think that the touching and the interaction has gone across the line. Even where in spaces, and this is to children, some of them watch Context Matters. If adults are making inappropriate jokes with you, sexual jokes that is reminiscent of dancehall songs, believe me when I tell you this. Tell an adult, whether it is an uncle, whether it is whoever it is, but they must be called out on the language used, the inappropriateness, especially when it's people you're not familiar with, and especially when the context don't call for it. And you know, one of the things about growing and striving like a flower is that, or let me use mango. I see ZJ Sparks come talk about Bombay mango, the best mango, but I never want to go up on Dirty X and cuss or make her know East Indian mango the best. So, but I want to say that, like a mango, don't pick it before it ripe. Yeah, that's why the country is in such a bad state, because I bear green fruit about the place. But you see, when the fruit ripe and time come, and you get consent to pick it, it is then you can enjoy it. So don't let anybody pick your fruit before it ripe. Yeah? And even if your fruit pick already, Madonna had a song like a virgin. It must be touched for the very first time with consent. And don't be afraid to speak. And don't be embarrassed to speak up about the sex you like, how you want it. Don't be pressured into participating and then end up on the stand like a Cassie talking about Diddy did this and Diddy did that and I love Diddy and Diddy had me have do this. Like, you're a sexually autonomous being that has the ability to say yes or no, and at any point, no matter who it is, me can tell you this here, you must all right in life. All when them a pay your rent, if them tap pay your rent, just don't pay your landlord. The court can't throw you out for at least 3 months. And God has a way of working out your life. Be afraid of nothing and no one. Let nobody use money to control you. I am serious about this. You are not for sale. We can talk and have discussions about the flow of money and how to survive in a free and democratic society, a high crime society where government has failed you, and promises to build and this and do that in the last 6 months, like people are idiot. Road and water that leads to nowhere, water that the water coming out of pipes in houses that need fixing and need roof and need proper facilities so human dignity can be experienced by all. And in all of that, people want your goods. People want to exploit you for your vagina. People want to exploit you for your body. People want to touch you in places they're not supposed to touch you. That's to the women. But also to the men, people want to exploit you for your penis and your body parts, and you must stand up and know that you're value something, you're worth something. Yeah. Ishbel, why you come with them with them dirty water business? When you go find whoever matches something with them, you see him and the prime minister say them a drink the water and the water now nothing in it, and then Radam water commission say, yeah, we'll find a little thing and thing, but we throw a little bleach in it. Anyway, let me leave that one alone. The point I'm making is, in a serious conversation, is to tell people that the irony about it, and I suspect one of the reasons why the Minister of Justice don't want to release the sexual offences registry is because it would in some way empower the victims to understand that their human dignity is restored. It would in some way cause people to recognize that even if he's a helper and the big man uptown rape you, that you have value. Yeah. And then, and controversially, if your vagina is like the Bible and has the verses necessary to walk through the valley of the shadow of death and you fear no evil, then you will understand that the value is you. Diane says, stay tight. Yeah. But that's going to make you laugh, and this is a serious matter. I want people to appreciate, and I'm not backing down from this aspect of it. Believe me when I tell you this. Why consistency is important and why context matter. The most important commodity that Jamaica has is the human resource. So they just look at it. The woman, she's a ghetto girl, but she had the prettiest diamond in the dance hall. Me don't know what happened, why you have to look so good and your body have to so tight. All parts. Good? And then, you know, the money, but trust me, them come from all over the world, all from uptown in Jamaica too. And they want to give you the world because sexual autonomy, sexual progress is a true thing. Aesthetics is important because one of the things about it is that sex sells. That's why Victoria's Secrets can sell lingerie and Fenty beauty products and Fenty lingerie line and all of the people. That's why Kim Kardashian and her sisters are so revered and worshipped all across the world. So we must not pretend. So even ugly people, every maca of them stick a bush. So respect yourself, love yourself, and recognize that what God bless you with is why them don't want to open up the sexual offences registry and make it public, because them don't want to know that some people end up on the registry a sniff and I do what them not fair do. So Marlene's dollar said, me not ugly. Me show me con, me not call no foul. Cause when me call the foul, I straight out of KFC to come. Or Miss Barbara when Miss Barbara cook it these days. So you know, worry about that. Anyway, I think I've said a lot. And the takeaway from this is I raised this issue because of what is in the social space. Let it not be a 9-day wonder. I'm going to say it again, and not because it's a political word. The Minister Darrell Vaz did say that he was going to deal with this app issue and the InDrive, you know, the taxi app issue. And here we have the UTech lady missing. And we need to get to the bottom of this in terms of how we protect our women and our children. We need to advocate and change, and it is my commitment, certainly. And this is to the women and children of Jamaica. This is to young people that are victimized through power struggle, that you must not be afraid to speak up for yourself, and who don't want to end up on the sexual offences registry, don't have sex, don't victimize, don't rape, because it's a tape. And the evidence from the tape is the registry, and it must be made public. And it can be done so in a safe way. The person's public means that the registry is available at your nearest police station, and if the person lives in the area, that's where it's going to be. That has to be something of importance, and person should be able to go to the police station and say, somebody new come live here and I don't like how them looking at my picnic, who is it? And the person is checked out. That's not a breach of the rights to privacy, because people could be going and anchoring like how the thief them way want pickpocket and take people handbag and run away with the phone. It's same way, so them anchor around the schools, them come around and they scope out and map out, and then they commit their crimes. And remember, community policing is important. We are our brothers keepers, and we are all parents of the children. It takes a village to raise a child and to protect their vaginas and their penis and their derrieres from predators. This is a reality. So since this is a conversation that nobody else wants to have, I will have it. And there has to be legislation that makes provisions, amendment to the legislation, so DCS is not the only place that has the updated sexual offences registry, but the police stations ought to have it, and the persons. And so I'm not probably for an instance is that the people who live in spaces must be able to know who their neighbors are. And there must be a duty on the sexual offender to report to the first police station to say, this is my new address. And the address must be reflected on the driver's license. And anytime the police, just like how you have the traffic ticket, the sexual offenders registry should be made available to the officers to check those things. Because if the person is living at a particular address, me not call the name for nobody when we come off of context matters, then go down at the people them yard to say, me did say on context matters, the offender live down there. But they must be able to say, you're living at this address, and if you have a driver's license, it's there. And let's talk about taxi operators. Yeah, we know say when people have conviction, they can't get no work, so they have to go drive taxi. But you think you cannot rape people and then you end up operate taxi and pick up school girl and the woman them wearing them stockings and them tight up skirt, which is their right to do. And so we need to get away from telling women and girls that they must dress appropriately, rather than telling sexual offenders and the men in society that is who must not abuse and harass women for expressing themselves. We must know, we fail at raising our boys because half of the time we're telling them come out of the class. And so if we're not having the conversations, especially this is Child Month, and in Child Month, all we want to do is go read across Jamaica, but we don't want to have the deep conversations with children at every level about how the ministry don't want to pay the teacher them, so half of the time they have to hire some suspected people who end up in the principal's office and ministry transferring them like a yo-yo. Ping pong them a play because them have sexual history and sexual deviance. So I've said a mouthful, and there are many persons who are offended by the position that I'm taking. But I would never want to be a part of a government that take issue with releasing the sexual offences registry. Public, not for the edification and nosiness for people on X and social media, but public for the persons who see the new neighbor and the neighbor just appear out of nowhere, and the neighbor nice, and the neighbor is the dream of your life, only to find out that the neighbor rape, and the neighbor like picnic. and the neighbor enter in a relationship with you because you have 5 daughters and then the father is absent from the home. This is the reality and we're facing it. So people, on this topic, the conclusion I am going to give to everybody is that I am of the view that amendments should be made to the legislation for the sexual offences registry to be made available to the nearest police station. The aspect of it where an offender has moved into the area, the duty of the offender to report to that police station to say, I now live here. I'm not saying report every day, but that the police is made aware that you're living there and that the neighborhood that you're living in can be made aware that you're there. I also believe that persons who are pedophiles, as in those who like to have sex with persons under the age of 16 and those who are raping persons under the age of 16, should not be able to live in a school zone. So you should have a duty to make it clear that you're going to come and live near Immaculate, let alone teach there. That Stella Maris and Shortwood and Merle Grove, Queens High School, Calabar, Meadowbrook, those are schools in the zone. Shortwood are in the zone. Hillel, can't call them all, that's uptown in St. Andrew. But if you want to go downtown and deal with that aspect of it, that is equally something to think about. So I've said a lot, and people, context truly matters, and I just feel like as we navigate this space, we are not to let this die down as a 9-day wonder. Right when we were saying the people in the government of Guyana is supposed to account for how the little girl end up dead in the pool. Somebody must this nincompoop just decides say you're gonna put a child in a barrel. Right when all those lives lost and crime gone down and the government reporting in these statistics, when we met the Prime Minister Harris Chang, him deputy, who them almost beat up down a Belmont Road for coming there because the democracy is being thwarted. But none of my business still. It's just a wonderful thing to know that the citizens of Jamaica take no time to embarrass you. You can't even get across another Caribbean island before we do something retarded. And so that is it. Just like how we celebrate the greats, we have to celebrate our shame. And if we're going to celebrate, we're going to have to regulate. And if you're going to want me to participate in the shame that it caused when on the national stage we have big people walking around a rape little picnic and then gone into this new thing where them killing them, if we're going to get there and me have to participate in that, me have to know who the offenders are. And so we can constantly counsel, we can constantly monitor, and we can constantly get them in a space where those who have the mental issues, the sexual deviants, must get the help that they need. But we will have further discussions on this. Thank you so much for listening to me on this very sensitive topic. Lexi never had put up the thing, but vote for Lexi. And thank you, Walking in Divine Purpose, for telling people to look at the GoFundMe account for the tablet drive that we're constantly doing for the children of Portland and for any other needs that they have as it come up. Recently, the death in Portland has been so much, natural causes. I didn't realize people die so much. But here we are. Thank you guys for joining, because I didn't advertise and you guys still show up. So my followers and my viewers, I appreciate you all. Blessings. See you guys next week.
took some time to understand, yeah, just what it takes to be a man. Now it seems each day you learn something to make a better way. Growing up ain't just a phase, it's reality. And sometimes it's hard to face the world with your head screwed on. But in time you will see, it comes naturally, like the hurt and the pain. It's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You know I heard them say, life much better you live it your own way. But if you need a helping hand, just call on me, I will be your friend. And when it gets hard to face the world with your head screwed on, just tell yourself you can. And that's when you'll understand that the hurt and the pain, it's a part of the game. It's all a part of life, to laugh and to cry. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. You gotta keep on moving on. Don't let no one stand in your way. Gotta keep on pressing on. As we pray for better days, keep it moving, moving to the next. When they try to bring you down, we gotta take it to the next level when they come around. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right, it's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep your stride. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. Just keep your head up, yeah. Just keep your head up, yeah. Gotta keep your head up, yeah. Cause everything's gonna be alright.
Keep your head up. Keep your head up. Keep your head up.
Cause everything's gonna be alright.